Ma'am, shall we start?
Yes, sure.
Okay, sir. Joe, sir, shall we start?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
please.
okay, sir. Okay. A very warm good morning to one and all. I am Adira, the Applied Science and Humanities Department of Universal Engineering College, Vallivattam invites you to the national level webinar series on recent trends in science, technology, and socio-economy. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. Today is our last day of webinar and we are happy to express our sincere thanks to all for making this webinar a grand success. Today, on the last day of our webinar, we are going to present the topic Communication Strategies to Improve Professional and Technical Skills. The topic will be presented by Dr. N. Sreerekha, Associate Professor and HOD of English Department at Panambili Memorial Government College, Chalakudi. She have edited several textbooks for the UG courses in Calicut, Kerala and Kannur universities. She has acquired her PhD from School of Letters, Mahatma Gandhi University. Drama, fiction and teaching of English are her main areas of interest. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel, or you have the option of raise hand in control panel for asking your doubts. And please remind that we will also have time for question at the end. Now I would like to welcome our respected principal, Dr. Jose K. Jacobs, sir. Please, sir.
A warm good morning to all. Good morning, Dr. N. Sreerekha.
Good morning, sir.
Today's topic is very interesting. That is communication strategies for improving both professional and technical skills. So, as a technical institution, I hope this will be most suitable for us also. Not only for Arts and Science College, it is most suitably for engineering college staff also, and students also. So I wish all success to this program, and I'm happy that the 5 days program was a successful one. And today is the last day. And once again, I express our sincere gratitude to Dr. N. Sreerekha for your valuable time with us. And thank you very much. Adira, please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to welcome respected Head of the Department, Dr. K.K. Narayan, sir. Please, sir.
Thank you, Joe sir and Adira. And a very good morning to our distinguished speaker of the day, Dr. Sreerekha, and our valuable participants and the webinar team. As all of you know, today is the last day of our journey. Our journey is reaching at the finishing point today. For the past 4 days, we were running with the 5-day webinar program. And as principal told, today's topic is most relevant and it is most useful for an educational institution like an engineering college. And moreover, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the participants, and all of us know the success of every seminar or webinar, whatever it may be. It is the resource persons and the participants are equally playing the role to make it a good success beyond the team behind it. And I am sure that our participants were wholeheartedly participating, not only participating, they were cooperating much with us. And to all my participants, I utilize this occasion to express our departments and the college, our webinar team, entire teams, sincere thanks to all the participants. And moreover, I utilize this occasion to express the thanks to the webinar team who were working that much for this, for making it a success. So as the head of the Department of Applied Science and Humanities, on behalf of Universal Engineering College, on behalf of Department of ASH, and on my personal behalf, I welcome you, Madam, to deliver this talk. And moreover, I welcome all the participants and the entire seminar team behind this. Thank you all. And switching over to Dr. Sreerekha. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. A very good morning to all of you who have gathered here for the webinar. Even though it's the last day of the webinar, it doesn't, the things are going on well these days, and that's what I've heard. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank the whole team, including the faculty members, for inviting me for a talk, that too on a very relevant topic as part of the seminar. My special thanks goes to the principal of the institution, Dr. Joske Jacob, and also the head of the Department of the Humanities section, Dr. K.K. Narayanan, and my friends and my student, Rahul. In particular, it was he who first informed me and asked me whether I would be free to give a talk on communication strategies. So big thanks to Rahul for his sincerity. He was a good student of mine, and I'm sure that he is a good and sincere faculty in your college. And also Shafi, who came yesterday and helped me with the technical, came with all the support and technical assistance behind this, who's working, and also Suprabha, I've heard the name, and even Adira. So a big thanks to all of you for inviting me for this webinar. May I please start my presentation? Okay, so as the speakers, Dr. Narayanan and Dr. Joske Jacob, have already mentioned that communication is a very common word. It's a highly used word these days because the whole world revolves around communication. That's very sure, we know that. So my topic is also, I think it would help the students who are listening the webinar, especially the students. It might help them to mold their personality skills with the help of communication. And what I intend to do in this presentation is to give you an overall idea about the different types of communication, and that is usually used in workplaces, because we are here concerned about professional organizations, working in professional organizations and workplaces. That is for the future engineering graduates, or the future graduates from engineering colleges. So my topic will be related to that. I have planned the first section. I've divided this presentation into 3 parts. The first introductory part I would like to give. Please, I would like to share. Please, would you help me to change the slide? Yes. Okay, so my first section is an introductory part. It gives you an introduction about the word communication, a general definition of communication, and then I would proceed to give some information about the communication aspect of the animal world. And then I would then again proceed to say something about early human communication, and then proceed towards the 20th century communication, human communication scenario, and that to the workplace scenario, how important communication has become in the modern or 21st century workplace. So the second part would deal with the significance of communication in the 21st century, and the different types of communication that we have to practice as students who are going to take up careers in professional organization. And finally, the some of the communicative strategies that have to be kept in mind in order to communicate effectively and in order to develop your professional as well as technical skills. So let me start by the definition of communication. It's a very common term that has been defined and defined. So basically, as we all know, the word communication originates from the Latin word communico or communicare, which means to share. So the basic idea behind communication is the concept called sharing. It's a dynamic process, it is a continuous process, and it is basically the transfer of ideas, messages, feelings, information, etc., from one person to another. It may contain, it may evolve, it may also include a number of persons in certain other contexts too. And one main thing about communication, we always talk about communication becoming effective. Only then it matters. Only effective communication matters in the modern world. So it becomes effective only when the sender succeeds in getting a desired action or response. So that is, it means that the sender who gives the message is he is doing the process of encoding, and the receiver who receives on the other end who receives a message is undergoing the process of decoding. And only if this process, this complicated process, we can say it's complicated rather, because everything arises, there's a lot of communication issues arising in the world. So we know that even though it seems very simple, it becomes effective only when the process becomes when the desired action or response is received by the sender. So it's a two-way process, and this is what I have to say about this. Now, as a kind of background information, we can see something about animal communication. So we know that human beings have started everything is based on nature, everything is based on we have learned to imitate nature right from the beginnings of our civilization. So it would be very interesting to know something about animal communication. So we know that animals may not be as advanced, that's what we claim, we may not be as advanced as humans to master the advanced language techniques that we have mastered. We claim to we boast to have mastered advanced language techniques, but animals even in fact, even though they don't have such a display of language, they certainly have other ways of communicating. You might have read about whales singing songs, lengthy songs, to communicate the howling of the wolves, the croaking of the frogs, the waggle dance of honeybees, or the vigorous waving of a dog's tail. A dog wags his tail to show that whether these are all methods to show that they are transmitting information to each other. See, uh, they can convey their needs, desires, and reactions to the environment through these innate methods. Then you find that most of the animal species often rely on verbal and non-verbal forms of communication, as they don't have specific or advanced language techniques. They make calls, some birds make attract others. This is particularly in the case of dolphins. Dolphins are supposed to be dolphins are supposed to be very intelligent creatures, and they slap their tails on water to communicate. There are firebugs who emit certain bioluminescence. They emit certain light. They emit certain kinds of lights, and they are known as bioluminescence. And then some animals, they secrete certain scents, and they display their territory. Then there are the fireflies who emit bioluminescence to attract their mates and all. The peacock is another bird who struts in a very impressive manner, and it's a case of visual display. The ants, as my next slide shows, the ants you have seen, they are very interesting creatures, very intelligent creatures. We think they are very silly ones. They have a very good team spirit. They work they work very sincerely, and they form colonies which are as advanced as human colonies, we can say, because everything goes perfect in an ant colony. And have you ever thought how these ants communicate? They have these structures called antennas, which the tactile kind of communication. They use touch. They touch each other, and they communicate a lot. Even sometimes they secrete some kind of hormonal substance called pheromones to communicate with each other, with them, among themselves. So these are all very interesting facts. And something about the bees. The next, see, the bees also are very intelligent creatures who live in colonies, beehives, you might have seen. And you see that the worker bees are very hardworking, sincere insects, and their main intention is to locate honey or food. And when these worker bees proceed to collect food and honey, they dance in a particular method that is known as a waggle dance. The waggle dance itself is of two kinds. They dance in a circular movement, and then they dance in an eight digit, like a digit eight. They move, and each movement has its own communication specialities. When they dance in circles, it means that the food is nearby or the honey is nearby. And when they dance in the number eight pattern, it even gives a direction where you can get the food or honey. So all these are very intelligent communication techniques adopted by the animal world, which is very interesting. And you see, modern people, so many people, researchers are engrossed in studies related to bees and all. And even there is a German professor who has even got a Nobel Prize for learning about bees. He has spent almost 50 years researching on bees. See how important people take this concept called communication. Now, my next slide is about, now we come to the beginnings of human communication. Whenever we think of human communication and the beginnings of human communication, to be very simple, we think about the communication. We even imagine the communication that might have happened among human beings, among the Stone Age or prehistoric human beings, how they might have communicated. Thinking about that is a very interesting one. So we have already, in history, we might have seen many paintings, rock paintings, cave paintings, etc., where the prehistoric man has expressed his creativity. And these are especially because these are the early forms of communication before the evolvement of language as a tool for communication. So an important feature that distinguishes humans from other animals is our ability to use language. Studies are progressing in this field as to when and why this trait of using language evolved among human beings. Studies conclude that the art of conversation might have arisen because it made it easier for our ancestors, for our prehistoric ancestors, the Stone Age men, the Neanderthal men, and all, to teach each other how to make stone tools. So, language, the primitive language, might have originated out of the prehistoric man's need to construct tools for hunting purposes. And again, some researchers, they think that these people, the Stone Age people, they gathered around campfires and they used to enjoy their hunt, because fire was already discovered in those times in the Stone Age and all. They used to sit around the campfire and they used to discuss, they used to enjoy, they used to narrate about the details of their hunt and all. And this might be the early origins of language. Most probably they might have had primitive language which concentrates more on sounds and gestures. All these are primitive forms of communication and the primitive form of language. Sound, then signals, sounds, etc. So the oldest known signals created for the purpose of communication were the cave paintings, which you can see in the slide, which can be as early as 30,000 BC. Then after that came the cuneiform writing developed by the Sumerians, and later the Egyptians developed the hieroglyphic writings. These are all primitive written types of communication. Then besides that, smoke signals, drums, trumpets, whistles, all these kinds of methods were used by primitive man for communication. Then after that, we just make an overview of what happened later. In the later years, we find that human communication has evolved and developed a lot with the coming of the Morse code, the telegraph, then the inventions of telephones, radios. Now we have already reached the most advanced age of technology, the time of internet, cellular phones, mobile phones, all these things. Okay, so we are even concerned about what will the future of communication be. How is man going to look into the future of communication? Now, significance of language. This is very important about when we say something about language. It's very important because language is a distinguishing characteristic of humans that not only differentiates him but also makes him superior. He becomes a superior human being with the help of language. Um, then um, It is rightly said that the discovery of speech marked the beginning of man. We can say that. This signifies the importance of language. Language is seen as a part of human psychology. When psychologists claim that it's an inevitable part of psychology, that if you need to learn psychology, you have to learn more about human language. A particular sort of behavior, that's what psychologists say about language. It's a kind of human behavior which has its principal function, that is of communication. Language is a means of conveying ideas to others, which has certain important features like creativity, arbitrariness, reflexivity, displacement, duality, and cultural transmissions. These are some of the advantages of language. These are some of the important characteristic features of language, human language. Now, to be brief, I'll just mention what are the important characteristic features of language. The creativity is the most important characteristic feature of language. What is creative? Human beings can create words out of sounds. This is a wonderful thing that is going on in the process of the brain. The possibility or the ability of human beings to construct words, to create new expressions and utterances. It's a continuous process. The minute you find a new object or you have a new idea, you just go on coining new words. So new words are entered into the world dictionaries. Every year you find 5,000 words are there. Modern words have already entered into the Oxford dictionary. And then comes another feature of human language is the arbitrariness. There is no natural connection between the linguistic form and the meaning and its linguistic form. See, we say bird or we have hen. When we say hen, we have the concept of hen in our mind, but it doesn't have anything to do with hen or the word called hen. So this is what is special about language. It is arbitrary. There is no connection between the object and what we are saying. Now, another important feature about language is the reflexivity, the quality of reflexivity. What is reflexivity? Human beings can reflect. We can think about our past. We can narrate about our past. We can narrate about our present, and we can even narrate about our future. We can even think about our future. So, especially we can narrate incidents of our past. We can reflect. We can think about our past. This is a very important aspect. And language. It is through language that we express the thoughts that have already happened about our past life, past experiences. All these things can be narrated with the help of language. Then these then another important aspect of language is the culture another with the help of language. So all these are the important aspects of language. Now we come to the 21st century. Um, the 21st century, things have evolved and changed a lot. Communication systems have become the most advanced one. Technology has advanced, and even the workplaces have also advanced. So it faces many new challenges. And let's see what is the situation of communication in the 21st century. So, in the contemporary fast paced business environment, employees at all levels, employees, you're going to be the students of today are going to be employees tomorrow, definitely. So, this is a common challenge faced by the new generation employees because this is a fast-paced business environment, and you're being asked to handle more tasks, meet more deadlines. Everything is taken up in a very speedy manner. A kind of rat race for success. That's what we say. We teachers, we literature teachers say a rat race for success. Hmm. So it's very busy in a workplace, in a professional organization. Things are happening quickly, and it is a and you have a fresh graduate has to make a lot of adjustments when he enters for a job in a professional organization. Everything becomes very speedy. He has to deal with so many challenges, handle more tasks, meet more deadlines, take up more responsibilities, adapt to more changes. All these things are there. Moreover, there is a constantly shifting diversity of the workplace because the workplace is not always the same. It goes on changing. Sometimes these graduates themselves, they change organizations, and even the organizations undergo drastic changes according to time. And there is a diversity of the workplace, and the graduates or the work professionals or the young employees, they need to cope with generational changes. You have to deal with people belonging to different generations. I think there's a generation gap, age, gender. Gender issues are also there in the organization. You have to face gender issues, then cultural differences. If you work in a country that is, if you work abroad, you may have to meet people from different cultures and different races, and there are cultural differences. So it's a great challenge for it is particular communication, both verbal and non-verbal, becomes inevitable in the workplace. That is what we are now concerned with. We are slowly coming to the different aspects of communication, which will help a lot in the workplace, because communication is inevitable. You have to acquire the skill of communication inevitably when you are working with an organization. Okay, now communication, both verbal and non-verbal, what we in the professional world, it is communication and its related skills that decide a person's career curve. Really, it's right, isn't it? The better one's communication skills are, the higher are the chances for him to climb the ladder of success. Proper communication helps the professionals in the five major tasks that you have to undergo if you work with a professional organization. You have to understand the business, you have to understand the processes, you have to do some kind of planning, organizing, executing strategies, and
Hello, Shafi. Hello, Shafi.
Hello, sir.
Something went wrong in the problem.
മിസ്സിന്റെ നെറ്റ് കട്ടായതാന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു.
Okay.
നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം, ഒരു 5 minutes മിസ് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യാൻ
Yes, yes. Okay, okay,
Okay,
okay,
sir.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, sure, sure.
We have a technical issue. It will solve soon. All of you, please wait.
Okay. നോക്കട്ടെ.
ഹലോ മാം, കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ? ഹലോ
ഹലോ.
ഹലോ. മാം കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരിക്കലും പോവാറില്ലാത്തതാണ്.
ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓക്കെ മാം. യെസ് മാം, യെസ് മാം. ഓക്കെ.
Sorry for the interruption. We were dealing with the communication process in the 21st century, and now, yes. Um, in an organization, we have to deal with people, professionals, and who belong to different levels. So proper communication among them becomes necessary for achieving the goals of an organization. When communication weakens, the organized action comes to an end. That is the problem. So you can imagine the importance of communication in a workplace. So we can strongly say that it is vital. This communication business is vital to the survival, sustenance, and growth of any professional organization. Um, Importance of effective workplace communication, that is very important as far as the future prospective employees. You're going to be all employees and as well as employers of professional organizations, so this is a very important factor for all aspiring professionals. Okay, effective workplace communication. Every professional organization has an inbuilt hierarchical system, you know, that can be compared to a pyramid. Normally the communication flows from top to down. People working at higher levels have the authority to communicate to the people working at lower levels. This kind of communication strengthens the authoritarian structure of the organization, which is inevitable these days. Orders, policies, statements, notices, circulars, job sheets, etc., are the main objective of downward communication. This kind of communication is known as downward communication, communication coming from authorities sitting in the topmost positions to reach even the downward level of communicate of employees. Okay, who work in the low levels in an organization. Adequate downward communication or receiving specific guidance. It can even be taken in a positive manner, that is, you receive a kind of specific guidance from your superiors, which is inevitable for the advancement of any organization. The employees need that. A specific guidance from superior will always improve the workers' productivity, which in turn also contributes to the overall performance of an organization. So this kind of effective communication between the superior and the superior officers and the junior officers are inevitable for the smooth functioning of an organization. So proper communication flow should be there. It is very important to the workers as well as the employees. They have to feel secure that they are receiving truthful and updated information from the superiors. That is a must. They also wish, and they should also feel that they are very secure. They should feel free to talk to the superiors, to share their own thoughts and concerns within the company, which will in turn improve the working environment and worker productivity. It improves all these things because it may also help to boost the morale of the employees, and also they inculcate a sense of commitment in them if they are allowed to do so, if they're given this permission for interacting freely with the superiors. This is known as upward communication. So there are two important methods of communication, that is downward communication from the top superiors to the lower level, and from the lower level to the superior level. That is a two-way process, a highly beneficial process. So both upward and downward communication are essential for a perfect environment in the workplace. So it improves the working environment and worker productivity. It promotes teamwork, curbs unhealthy competition among various departments. So if there is a good effective communication going on among the members, it gives them a feeling to work as a team, and thus to a great extent unhealthy professional jealousy, rivalry, all these things can be curbed, can be reduced to a certain extent. And the most important is that a perfect blend of upward and downward communication in our organization will help to promote teamwork, and thus the employers will feel free to send information, suggestions, complaints, and grievances to the managers above. Upward communication provides the employee an outlet to vent their grievances. That's the important function of upward. That's the important benefit of upward communication, because it will always provide the employees with an outlet to vent their grievances. If they have anything negative, if they are not happy with the overall situation in the organization, they should feel free to talk with the superiors, and their superiors should have, the employers should have the patience and sympathy to listen to their problems and complaints of the employees, and only then the management of conflicts will be possible to a great extent. This results in the strengthening of the relationships and increasing employee job satisfaction. This is very important in any organization. Job satisfaction is a very significant and foremost mental state. You should be happy with your job, and in order to ensure job satisfaction, this kind of upward and downward communication should be blended in a harmonious way in a professional organization. For that, communication is very important. So both upward and downward communication serves to create harmony and mutual trust and respect among employees and employers. The dealings with the customers also become friendly. See, this is also very important. Creating better client relationships, dealing with customers, all these become more friendly and more productive if there are better communication skills in the workplace. If there is better communication involved, they can understand the needs of the clients and help them in a better manner. So these are pictures of modern day communication where you find a very harmonious and a very healthy and common name heard in the in professional colleges known as soft skill. It's an often used term, and most of the students may be familiar with the term soft skills. So what are soft skills, and what is the need of inculcating soft skills? Okay, so communication in the professional world occupies such an important position these days that there hardly exists any activity in the business world as well as industry that does not require communication to play any role. So communication is inevitable in any professional organization. Therefore, nowadays, employers are always, this is what pertains to fresh graduates, what kind of employees are, what kind of candidates are they looking. So particularly for campus placements and all, employers are always in the lookout for graduates who possess soft skills that mainly include communication skills. So soft skills, under soft skills come the communication skills, but soft skills are something more than that. They include communication skills, but they also include some other good qualities, inherent personal traits or qualities like self-confidence, self-motivation, responsibility, flexibility, team spirit, good work attitude, and so on. So there's a fine blending of hard skills and soft skills to make one better professional and a superior human being. What are hard skills? As most of you may know, the hard skills are the specific technical requirements for a job. They are the learned abilities acquired and enhanced through your practice, repetition, and education. Your degrees, your diplomas, all this ensure you that you have a certain knowledge, a working knowledge about a particular engineering section. So this is your hard skill. They increase your employee productivity, of course, but more than that, soft skills on the contrary are character traits. It is a part of your character, or certain aspects of your character that enables you to interact effectively with and harmoniously with other people. That's very important. You can become a better professional and a superior human being. As human beings, you can become superior. You can you can be more valuable human being if you have a perfect blending of hard skills and soft skills. So soft skills are character traits and interpersonal skills that enable to interact effectively and harmoniously in all walks of life and workplaces in particular. They help people. So the soft skills help people to work well with groups of people from different cultural backgrounds, the solving problems, taking up responsibility, etc., etc. Now we come to the communication part. There are 4 main skills required for effective communication, as we English teachers usually say in our classes right from the college level. The 4 main skills are classified into 2, that is primary skills and the secondary skills. All of you are well versed in all these things. The first comes listening, then speaking, then reading and writing. Okay, listening and speaking are primary skills, and reading and writing are secondary skills. Listening and speaking are more important because these are the first things that we acquire in our life. When a human child is born, the first thing, the first skill that he acquires is the skill called listening. See, it listens to the voice of its mother, of its father, brothers, and then slowly it is there and it's ingrained in its brain, and then he recognizes he starts identifying the voices of his dear ones, and the process of listening becomes active in his brain right from the days that he is born, and then slowly the infant starts speaking by the time he's 1 or 2 years old. You find these are the primary skills acquired by any human being. And then when he gets to school and all, we switch on to the secondary skills, that is reading and writing of a language, of any language. This is the same, this is same everywhere, universally same, these primary and secondary skills. So how can you we as English teachers, we always advise the students to inculcate these primary skills. And how can teachers help students in inculcating these primary skills? We just can advise students to make use of audiobooks and apps, because this is an age of technology. Students can make use of audiobooks if at all it is available to them, and they can watch films that model on conversational skills. They can reinforce listening, they do presentations and assignments, all these things through sharing of opinions, challenging the students to ask questions. These are some things that teachers can do to improve the communication processes of students. Okay, now we pass on to communication strategies. That is, I come to the most important part of my presentation, that is the communication strategies that have to be developed in order to improve professional and technical communication skills. The ability to communicate effectively in speech and in writing is one of the most valuable professional skills. Okay, sending messages and information in a way that they are clearly understood to produce the desired effect demands certain technical competencies as well as interpersonal capabilities. Fortunately, these qualities can be improved upon with the right strategies. So strategies in communication are very important in order to make a successful, or in order to evolve as a successful employer, or as a successful employee, or as a successful professional. Okay, fortunately these qualities are not inborn, these can be acquired. So that's why the fact that communication is an acquired skill, it can be improved upon. So there is no need to be very pessimistic that communication skill is something that we can't that is not meant for us. Some people, some students, or some fresh employees, they are very disheartened, they feel very pessimistic or negative about their inability to use communication strategies in the proper manner. But they don't have to be very sad, because it is an acquired skill and it can be improved. with the right strategies. So you don't have to panic if you don't have an apt communication skill. It can only be acquired through time, provided that you have the interest in acquiring it. Okay, communication strategies include mainly verbal, non-verbal, and visual communication. Visual communication is important because of today's technological scenario. Everything is visual. Everything communicates better or effectively through visuals. So apart from that, what we can say is that we can improve our verbal and non-verbal kind of communication. Verbal communication now, it's an art. Everything is an art. Okay, communication is an art or a technique of persuasion through the use of oral, written, and non-verbal features. So actually, communication is an art. It can be, it's a kind of technique of persuasion. What we are doing is we are persuading others to our point of view through communication, through the use of oral, written, and non-verbal features. Now, what is verbal communication? Verbal a professional has to spend a large amount of his or her time in speaking and listening to others besides reading and writing. This is well, okay, this is agreed upon fact. So language becomes a powerful tool for communication. Verbal communication stands for the spoken as well as written form of communication. Actually, verbal communication as well as written all these things. Actually, what is oral communication and all, and oral communication when we make presentations, how is it helpful for us in the workplace or in during the professional level? When we make presentations, deliver speeches, participate in group discussions, conduct meetings, participate in interviews, we are actually involving in oral communication. So oral communication is always very helpful to improve our communication skills. So we even in professional organizations, as employers and employees, we need to participate in video chatting, phone calls, presentations, meetings, interviews, etc., where the skill called verbal communication is put into test. Now, written communication is also equally important in professional organization. In this mode, the center uses the written mode to transmit messages, reports, proposals, books, handbooks, letters, emails. All this come under this category of written communication. Communicating effectively, whether it be oral or written, relies on credibility. Okay, uh, you should be credible. People should trust you. People should give importance to what you're saying. This is something that is in the practical level. When you are applying all these skills, all these communication strategies, there should be some output in it. There should be some result in it. There should be the element of credibility in it. That is, people should at least listen to what you are saying. Mistakes. Suppose you make mistakes in grammar and spelling, you are incomplete in logic, you can have a negative impact on the audience perception of your sending of receiving your message. Okay, now verbal I'll switch over to verbal communication skills because it's very important in a professional organization. It's a very important communication strategy that you have to develop in a when you if you enter a professional organization. So verbal communication skills, all these I have given very clearly in the slides. While communicating in the workplace, communicators should always have the target audience in mind. To who are you communicating? They should be careful to use terms and phrases that the readers or listeners will understand. That's very important. We know that it should be very simple so that it becomes the understanding process becomes easy, and the ideas should be presented briefly and effectively. Jargons or very difficult words, overcomplicated languages should be avoided, and particularly in today's environment, we should avoid while speaking, while using verbal communication, racist and sexist terms that exist in language should never be used while during you while you communicate verbally in your professional organizations, because it might create a grave offense among certain sections of people. So the next point is practicing question skills. So it also comes under verbal communication. You can ask questions. Through asking questions, there will be a kind of open give and take process happens in the communication, and you get you get to know a lot about, you get a good feedback if you ask questions. So it is also a communication strategy that can be regularly practiced in professional organizations. So now we come to the writing skills. When you have to write, you have to check your grammar, the mistakes in spelling, and the incompleteness. All these things will create a negative impact if you are in a managerial or in a professional position. And if you have to do some kind of communication in the written mode, you have to be very careful with your spelling and your grammar. All these things, your messages should also be clear. You should avoid abbreviations, text language, the language that we the texting, chatting language that we use in social media. All these things should be avoided because it has a formal touch in it. And sometimes the readers may fail to understand if you are using abbreviations or some other things. Okay, so this is verbal communication. Now we pass on to non-verbal communication, which is a very significant type of communication that is consciously as well as unconsciously or unintentionally used in the workplace, or in a professional organization, or in the common human communication system. We all use a lot of non-verbal communication in our day-to-day communication process, and we can say that about 70% of communication is non-verbal. So this itself signifies the importance of non-verbal communication in our daily lives as well as in our professional organizations, etc. If you are there, this is and understanding the technique of non-verbal communication is a very important communication strategy to be practiced to improve your professional and technical skills. So when a message is communicated without using a word, it requires non-verbal signals to be transmitted and received. Non-verbal communication forms an important part in the world of professional communication. It can be further categorized into two. So body language and paralinguistic features. You might have heard a lot about body language, because body language plays a very significant role in non-verbal communication. Most of the messages that we give to others is by means of our body language, and also a paralinguistic feature. Body language involves aspects such as our personal experience, appearance. Appearance counts a lot in professional organizations. You see, walk, the gestures that we use, our facial expressions, our hand movements, posture, and even our eye contact. All these convey a lot about our personality, and it is a very significant communication strategy to be used in professional organizations. Paralinguistic features are also there which support body language, and they involve a person's voice, volume, pitch, rate, pauses, articulation, voice modulation, etc. So everything is there in what we speak, the way we speak, the how much the speed, the pace with which we speak, the tone in our articulation, pitch in our articulation. All these can speak volumes about what is there and actually we have in our mind. So sometimes you see, people are very concerned about body language. People give more importance to body language than to verbal communication. That is, we do that. We give more importance to a person's body language when a person communicates or when a person delivers a speech. We give more importance to his body language rather than what the way what he is saying. So sometimes even flashing of the eye, it communicates a lot. No, suppose you wink your eye or you flash your eye, it communicates. If you roll your eyes, it also communicates a message. And avoiding eye contact is also a powerful message. They may cause non-verbal barriers to effective communication. All these will create a negative kind of body language, will create barriers in effective communication. You're raising eyebrows. Some people have this tendency to raise your eyebrows. Raising your eyebrows means that you're not interested. You're unsure about. You're doubtful about what the person is. The speaker has said. All these things create a kind of a negative impact. So you have to be very careful to use positive body language techniques when you communicate with your audience. Very uncomfortable because they think that the speaker is very arrogant if he starts bulging his eyes and speaking to you. Then if a person keeps his hands in its pockets, this is another quite common thing that people do while speaking, keeping their hands in their pockets and speaking. But it's not a very welcome tendency, because you may appear very snobbish or deceptive if you to the audience, if you always talk pushing your hands in your pockets. Thus, when people communicate, they do not merely share some words, but also bring into play the subtle aspects of their voice and body to play an important part in communicating their ideas. So in the professional arena, one should be well aware about how the human body, through gestures, posture, expressions, hand movements, eye contact, it communicates the entire range of emotions, expressions, moods, and attitudes. All these, it's a very significant thing, the communication using body language. Now, the paralinguistic features, which we have to be equally concerned about, is once more, I say, the rate of a person's speaking. When you shouldn't speak very fast, or you shouldn't be very slow, because it creates a kind of inconvenience in grasping the whole thing. So these are the rate at which you talk, the pauses, where you pause when you speak. So it should be very judicious, it should be wisely used. Suppose you pause, make unnecessary pauses, the whole thing becomes a flop. Your communication becomes a flop. Then the volume, you should learn to adjust the volume of your voice. There are some people who shout at the top of their voice, and they are not very appreciated by the audience. There are some people who are very slow, and the audience soon lose their interest in hearing such persons. So hello, sorry for the interruption. So paralinguistic features are the judicious use of pauses. A rightly termed pause is an important as a rightly placed word. That is what we see. A pause is as important as a word. A pause can indicate either the emphasis or the conclusion of a thought unit, or it can make a natural emphasis. If you pause at certain places, it emphasizes what you're saying. Okay. Then the volume, adjust the volume. You should learn to adjust your volume. You should maintain a common, an adequate volume. Then the pitch and intonation refers to the rise and fall in the voice. So if you are monotonous, nobody will be there to uh, hear what you're saying. But if you have a variation in your pitch, rising and falling tone, which we English teachers teach the students in phonetics, it considerably improves your communication skill, which makes you more appreciable, your language and all. People tend to hear it if you use this variations in your pitch. Visual communication, visual visual communication skills. Now comes, this is very important as far as engineering or professional organizations are concerned, because so many engineering and business professionals need to share information to others and must be able to do it quickly and memorably. Passing information, you should be able to share the information to do it quickly and memorably. So for this, if you have to, if something, some messages have to be there to remain in your mind, it would be better if you display it visually. That this is at this point, visual communication skills become important in a person's life. It becomes important in a person's professional life. Passing information via images, signs, posters, short video clippings, and so on help a lot in improving communication. So you can pass your image information through images, signs, posters, short video clippings, etc., etc. Visual communication is a modern professional secret weapon as it creates a quick impact on the global audience. Incorporating visuals can save a lot of time because you can talk and but a picture can paint 1,000 words. That is a very important relevant observation. So you can talk a lot, but instead if you show just a picture, it can communicates a lot. Relevant visuals help the audience to remember the information more effectively. Only 10 to percent of 20% of a text or spoken word is recalled. People recall 80% of what they are saying through visuals. See, we may go on talking and talking for more than 1 hour, but what people ultimately remembers is what they see through their visuals. Next, we come to the most important remark that I have to make as a communication strategy, that is acquiring listening skills. And that too by acquiring listening skill, we mean active listening, which is a communication strategy. Active listening is a very important communication strategy that needs to be practiced and developed by professionals. Listening is the first primary skill, and it has to continue throughout your life to make your life very harmonious, to make your profession very smooth and happy. So active listening skills are very important as a human being and as a professional. Listening and hearing should not be confused. So when we talk about listening, we always there's a tendency to confuse between hearing and listening. What actually is the difference between hearing and listening? You know that hearing is a mechanical, it's a physical kind of exercise. As long as we have very perfect ears, you go on hearing all kinds of noises, you go on hearing all kinds of disturbances or something else from outside, but you may not register them. It just goes on, it just comes to our ears and it goes on. But something is different. Listening is something that is different. It's a conscious exercise, it's a deliberate exercise that you have to keep your mind on this quality in order to acquire this quality. So listening is something that it involves a kind of you see it involves a kind of deliberate exercise. Active listening is a very important communication strategy to be practiced while you are in a professional organization. Hearing is an unconscious process and it continues as long as our ears are sharp. But listening is a conscious and deliberate process that results in receiving messages in a thoughtful manner. You can understand things only if you listen. Hearing may not lead to understanding. Listening is the most frequent activity of the human being. Yes, and hence it holds a very important role in the communication process. It's an act, it is an art that has to be practiced and perfected. There are poor listeners and good listeners in our society. See, even in among children, you find in classrooms, you find poor listeners as well as good listeners. So there should always be a reason for poor listening. What might be the reasons for poor listening? There are barriers also for poor listening. Why one becomes a poor listener? So what makes a person a poor listener? If you identify these problems, then you can even make a poor listener a good active listener. So the listener may not be interested. So these are some of the barriers or reasons for poor listening. Sometimes the listener may not be interested in what the speaker is saying, and this may result in poor listening. He may not feel free to listen to these what the because he doesn't know much about the topic, about what the speaker is saying. There are some partial listeners. There are some people, of course, among students, you find partial listeners also, where the students just sit and look at the teacher's face and pretend as if they are listening, but their mind is roaming about somewhere. A kind of psychological barriers. They may be thinking about some other problems. They may be having their own problems at home, and they may be sitting right in front of us and pretending to be listening, but their mind will be wandering somewhere. No understanding happens. This may be because they sometimes they may engage in other activities and which hinder the listening process. Then the pace of the speaker in order to inculcate, in order to prompt the listeners to listen actively, the speakers will also have to modulate their pace. If they go on speaking continuously with a great speed, what happens is the listeners will speaker. So this is a serious barrier in acquiring a listening skill. Then the physical environment. These days it's raining heavily. Now my present situation, it's raining outside very heavily. There is poor connectivity. All these things are going on, and the interruptions, noise, all those things hinder proper listening. Texting, chatting, reading, and emailing in between sessions will also prove a great barrier to listening. Now, how can you become a good listener? What are the how can you identify a good listener? This is something that a communication strategy that you have to learn, because becoming a good listener will always help you to listen to the problems of your subordinates when you reach a high position in your professional world. So learning to listen is very important. So how should you maintain your posture during active listening? Your posture should always be a kind of leaning forward, keeping interest in what the person is saying. So that is a clear signal that you are listening attentively, and it always motivates the speaker if they see students or professionals sitting in a very leaning forward and listening in using that particular body language. So it's very motivational, and at least occasionally you can nod your head approving of what the speaker says. This is a very positive attitude in active listening, giving occasional nods and expressions to encourage the speaker, giving responses such as okay, sure. All these will are allowed in as a part of active listening. Putting on and so we can even if it is as a part of active listening, you can even ask questions. You can even ask for clarifications, which are all positive and encouraging for the speaker. Which it is a give and take process. Active listening will encourage both the speaker as well as the listener. Suppose you put on a very emotionless, a very long face in front of a speaker. The speaker may not at all feel like continuing the conversation. He may just feel like stopping the whole conversation, and all these things have to be taken into consideration when you acquire listening skills. So I have come to the end of my presentation, and I would like to sum up as a whole. As I think I have because you must excuse me, because I had lost my connectivity due to heavy rains for a few minutes. I hope you will excuse my inability to continue this. After all, this is all related to communication, and I think I have given something related to the strategies that is needed for promoting or improving professional as well as technical skills in a professional organization. And I hope that this might have been a little bit useful for engineering graduates, for students especially, because I've always talked from a teacher's point of view. And in spite of all these external distractions, I had a little bit of external distractions due to poor connectivity. I hope you may all forgive me for this, and thank you for listening to this presentation. Thank you once again. I thank all the organizers once again for giving me an opportunity. I'm so sad that there was a kind of interruption in between. It might be due to my poor connectivity issues, so please bear with me. Thank you once again for inviting me for this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of Universal Engineering College, I would like to express our profound gratitude to the presenter of our last day webinar series, Dr. N. Sreerekha. Thank you very much for making the webinar with our participants a really successful one. We greatly appreciate the presentation you gave to us. It was nothing short of incredibly informative and interesting. Thank you, ma'am. And I also express our sincere gratitude to our principal, Dr. Jose K. Jacob, sir. And I'm glad to express our sincere thanks to Applied Science and Humanities HOD, Dr. K. Narayan, sir, for your great support and coordination. And I'm happy to express a vote of thanks to our staff members who have made this seminar a grand success. Once again, I would like to request you all to fill the feedback form that is available in chat box, and it will be available only 30 minutes. So fill it fast. It will be considered as your attendance sheet. Once again, thank you everyone. We appreciate you being here. We are thankful to all of our webinar presenters and attendees for making this webinar a grand success. Thank you.